Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
Well, I am ready to shoot first on this movie.
We're back again, the three of us.
Yeah,
Finally,
it's actually been a while.
It has.
We haven't had...
Only 2 weeks, right?
No,
I missed the first one,
we haven't had...
Avengers, and then we
you
missed
meant
you.
from the 100th episode.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So we haven't had a joint episode since the 100th episode.
Shame on us.
Seriously.
It's true.
Seriously. Well, shit happened. I mean, you know.
It happens. We moved into a house, and it seems like it has taken my entire life over.
But we're back, baby.
As moving in a house will do. I know that all too well. If you remember, it was a year ago this week that I moved into the current house.
Really? I can't believe
Yeah.
that's been a year, Brian.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I definitely get that. But yeah, we're in episode 103. It's going to be a fun episode this week. We're going to be talking about the movie that probably shouldn't exist, but unfortunately does. And that
Disney's
is
Lucas's films Solo, a Star Wars story in 3D, 4-box IMAX.
Give Us Your Money. Yeah.
Give us your money.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. And we've got a lot of insight on it. We've been talking about Solo for a while. We talked, I think it was about a year ago, about the director problems they were having, how they switched to Ron Howard to direct it, and we're just going, oh, this is going to be bad. So really, this was, watching this movie, we were on pins and needles, kind of like, okay, are we right? Is this going to be a giant shit show? So we'll find out today. But before we get to that, we got to get through our merch stuff, push the merch out.
Let's be horse.
Let's be horse for a little bit. So as you might know, we do have a TeePublic store that you can access and find all sorts of amazing graphics for T-shirts, including Star Wars stuff. The last stuff we put on there was for our 100th episode, I believe, so a lot of Plan 9 from Outer Space stuff on there. But we'll definitely be putting some Solo work up there. But you can also get our Psycho Show shirts that we have. Awesome shirts.
It's only like 6 or 7 months till Christmas. I think
That's
you
right.
should just load up now.
Oh, absolutely.
People have birthdays. Let's get these birthdays on the train.
Each of your family member gets 6.
I know I'll probably be buying my soon to be born daughter a Psycho Show onesie. Why not?
Yeah.
But if you want to get that stuff and get a nice discount on it, if you use the code PsychosNation at checkout. And this is not just for our store. If you go buy anything on the TeePublic store and use that code, you get 25% off. That's a hell of a deal if you ask me. So check out the code, PsychosNation. Check out our TeePublic store. It's on our website, or just go to teepublic.com. Now that we've hoarded ourselves out for a little bit, let's talk about some news. We got a news bit, right, Lane?
But
We do.
Ryan, what about my Etsy store where I make vaginal-looking soaps? Aren't we going to plug
This
that?
isn't the venue for that, honey.
Oh, okay.
No one cares about your Etsy store.
Wrong podcast.
That's right. That's my next stop.
But I feel like vagina soaps are a good idea.
I mean,
I'd be into it.
I was going to say, this isn't Vaginal Soaps Today with Dr. John Woolscroft. So
That would be incredible,
Hey,
though.
the doctor, it's real.
The doctor is
yeah,
in.
sure. Doctors in quotations.
I got it online. Trump
The doctor is
University.
in.
Trump University. There you go. Market quality.
Yeah.
You guys make me sad. All right. No, we have an awesome news bit today. So,
Okay.
in case anyone didn't hear the news, Benedict Cumberbatch is actually a real life superhero. He
Also known as Doctor Strange.
also known as Doctor Strange from the Marvel Universe.
Or Sherlock Holmes.
He is Sherlock Holmes. I think a lot of people know him as Sherlock. But I guess this was in London, and kind of like we have Grubhub or Uber Eats here, they have a company called Deliveroo. So it's like a food delivery company.
Of course they do.
They're British. What do you want?
When you use
But-
the Deliveroo to go get some scones and fish sticks and fingers.
Wait, oh crap! Wait, don't we have downloads in England? We love you.
Hey,
crumpet-eating
hey,
motherfuckers.
my last name's Coddington, so it's English, okay?
Yeah, so am I.
There you go.
Woolscroft. So anyway, I love that you guys like hijacked my news story.
Sorry.
It's okay. But I guess Benedict was in his Uber and he actually like jumped out of the Uber when he saw this happening. The guy was attacked by 4 muggers, the delivery guy. He was on a bike and the cyclist was in his 20s and he was on his way to a delivery when 4 guys pounced on him and started punching him to take the bike.
Wow.
And so Cumberbatch was in a cab nearby, the Uber, and he went over and he pulled the attackers away and was like screaming like, leave him alone. And what happened was like the fact that he came out and like called them all out, the group of men fled. And so the cyclist like wasn't really hurt that badly. I mean, yeah, he was punched, but he didn't need to go to the hospital. Nothing was stolen. And it was just really cool. Like the guy could have been really, really hurt if he hadn't stepped in.
Well, that is a story that people originally aren't going to believe. It's like, oh, guess who I picked up my Uber today? Benedict Cumberbatch from the Marvel
Right,
movies.
that's a crazy story.
No.
In London, it's probably not
Doctor
that crazy,
Strange?
though.
But then when you get to the point, then he jumped out of my car to start ninja kicking muggers. No, he didn't.
Jeff, you're just making stuff up again. You're just making stuff up.
Here's the way I like to look at it. Okay, if this happened in America, Benedict would be dead, and that mugger would be dead because those not the mugger, but the delivery guy would be dead because the muggers will be packed with M16 machine guns.
It is important to note.
That.
It is important to
If
note
it had
that
been Tom Cruise, he would have just like busted out all those Jack Reacher moves.
well, yeah, I mean, it is important to note that muggers in London would be armed differently than they are here, so that makes sense to
not
say.
with military style weapons.
Well, they're not allowed handguns over there, right?
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
They
It's
I know it's very different over there.
They just mug people with passive aggression and gingivitis, right?
Why are you so evil today? It's so early and you're so evil.
No, but I think like their biggest problem, if I remember correctly, is knives.
Yeah. It's a big issue.
That's the issue. Stabby. Cut.
Well, I mean that's
Really,
great.
the Joker's over there.
That's why it's so great that he stepped in and everything.
But it is. I mean that's when you told me this news story, I was like, what if this happened in America?
Oh wow!
And
I didn't even think of that.
I just thought, I'm like, well, I guarantee you that the muggers would probably have machine guns of some kind, and would probably have shot Doctor Strange.
It's true. But the last thing I wanted to say about the story, guys, is the company Deliveroo. They got wind of the story, and on their Twitter they made like a little like word graphic thing that said "Thank you, Benedict" from everybody at Deliveroo, and said like that he was a hero, which he is
cool.
true. Like it was very cool of him to be so selfless and to help somebody else, and he must be like fit because like. I don't know a lot of 41-year-old men that would like go after 4 muggers.
Well,
I don't like those odds.
Here's the thing. A lot of those Marvel movies, they pretty much make sure that everyone has to like train and get ripped for this.
Makes
stuff.
sense, and he is in good shape for that. I mean,
So
he was in
I'm
good
not
shape.
surprised at all that they did that.
Right. But I wanted to celebrate with some of my favorite butcherings of his name. So I got Buttercup Cumbersnatch,
That just sounds right to me.
Bannister Crumblebench, and Snickerdoodle Cabbage Patch.
That's not even trying.
I always like Benedict Cumbersniz.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I've heard that one before.
Well, it's just funny because like there's always that joke online that like because of Tumblr, like no matter how badly you mangle his name, people know who you're talking about. And so we get Bonky Hort Cutie Brunch. And it's over. There's like a post if you guys want to look it up. It's on BuzzFeed of like the times that there was no respect for his name. And on Tumblr, there's this picture of it looks like a Bath and Body Works candle, and it's called Blueberry Pumpkin Patch. And someone just posted it because they were like, "Oh my god, this candle smells so good." And someone else said, "Isn't that the name of that actor, Blueberry
the name of the
Pumpkin
actor?
Patch?"
That's funny.
Benedict Cumberland.
So anyway, Bonky Hort Cutie Brunch is a hero. Thank you so much for being awesome and just as awesome in real life as you are on the Marvel
Hort
universe.
Cutie Bunch.
So
I hope that person was appreciative of the food they got. Like, you're never going to believe how hard it was to get you your wonton.
yeah, right. Like I hope that your order was perfect because a man almost died for it.
Somebody goes, yeah, you forgot my fortune cookies. Can you please take this
Forgot my
back?
fortune
Dude,
cookies.
do you know what I've been through?
Yeah, right.
Doctor Strange kicked some guy's ass for me.
I specifically asked for the yellowtail in my sashimi appetizer. We're gonna have to do this again.
Excuse me. Yes, there seems.
Oh
to
yeah,
be,
they'd be British. John and I like to
there's-
not do that.
Excuse me. There seems to be a hair in my fish sticks and fingers, and I would like a refund, please, out of your pay.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Nah, I bet they're not.
What's that?
horrible
You're
over there
bleeding
that
from the
go
temple.
here.
Okay, what happened? To tell me. Oh,
my
Doctor
God.
Strange saved your life. Okay, cool.
Sure. Yeah, no one would believe you. Benedict Cumberbatch saved my life. Wait, what? No, that's not real. But yeah, so that was like
crazy.
a nice little feel good story for the day.
Well, that was a nice delivery. Let's talk about a shitty delivery. And that's Solo.
He's back, y'all.
Right out of the gate.
A Star Wars Disney manufactured story.
Guys, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where do
this-
you want to start?
Well, let's start. So we did talk a little bit last year about how they were going through director problems. I can't remember the guys' names. I'm sorry, but the Lego
movie guys.
men,
Yes.
the Lego guys were originally slated to direct this guy, and they had a lot of problems with the studio, a lot of disagreements, and so they were ousted, and they brought in Ron Howard.
Which probably dumb.
I mean,
Well, let's be honest. The studio directed this movie, and they hired
Ron was just gonna do
because
whatever
Ron's
he
just a
said.
big time, studio insider. Like he's been around Hollywood forever, and his name attached to it would look good. But Ron literally, I'm sure, showed up on set with all their notes, and he did whatever they told him. to do.
and I mean, it's so
and he
evident.
collected his paycheck.
It's so evident. So I mean, if you guys aren't used to us by now, if you've just found us, found the show because of the Solo episode, we are going to spoil the shit out of it. So
Thank you, Lane, for that warning.
yeah, just to let you guys know,
This is a code red spoiler
yeah,
alert.
we don't. Yeah, this is a code red spoiler.
There is no
This
other way to talk about this, but
Well, and there's so much to talk about, I think, just in general with the Star Wars universe, which, we have admittedly mixed feelings about. But I mean, this is, like, no pun intended, like, this is the dark side of that, like, where you have this huge entity.
And let's be honest here. We're talking really dark because the cinematography in this.
No.
What the fuck?
Is that what you
Are
guys
we
want to
just-
talk
are
about
we just
first?
jumping
This
into
is
that?
this
Or you-
was
yeah.
the.
I just want to mention that off the top. Like watching this was I got flashbacks and PTSD of watching Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, that's one of the things that bothered me the most, because at least with, I mean, and I could be way off base on this, but I was disappointed when the Lego guys were, ousted, because I thought that it would at least have given us, like, the youth kind of aspect where it would have been, like, maybe younger and more fun, and and just to have some old white guy do it, like, okay, great, but it doesn't seem like that exciting to me. And so with having younger guys, I thought, okay, well, that might be a fresh new take, but, like, who the hell shot this movie?
Yeah.
This was shot by Bradford Young.
What else has he
You should
done?
be fired.
Anything? I
Brad
mean,
should be
fired.
I mean, well, okay. So I mean, say what you want
I
about
mean,
a lot of movies like Marvel.
He's earned Academy Awards. Like he did
For what?
Okay, he did the cinematography for Selma, A Most Violent Year, and Arrival, and he earned an Academy
Wait,
Award
those
he
nomination.
did the cinematography for Arrival?
Yes.
The cinematography was great in Arrival.
All three of those movies, the cinematography is more than competent. So what happened to him here?
The studio probably.
Well, no. I mean, I was reading an article, and I think either one of you guys might have linked me to it, but
Okay.
it was talking about some people feel that the cinematography is what led to the poor reception. It's because, let's be honest here, the reception of this was not nearly as high as Disney wanted. But there was talk that the reason that people didn't see this or just got the word of mouth of it, and this I call this more excuse making than anything, is the fact that the cinematography was so dark that you couldn't see anything. And they attributed that to not the cinematographer as more or less the digital projection systems.
To a degree, that's not untrue.
yeah, but
yeah.
can't you calibrate for something like
You
that?
can,
if you know what's going to happen?
but here's the thing. It used to be that you would have trained projectionists
yeah.
who could calibrate things
I
based
see.
on the certain films that they're playing. Now, the way that things are done now, all digitally,
Yeah.
you're supposed to have a standard for that. Like the idea of that the DCP, this is getting a little technical, but this is what I know because I've made digital cinema packages
Right.
for my
I think
films.
it's important.
And it is designed to be a standard so that you do have a baseline of how everything's projected for these digital systems. But the problem comes when you can't troubleshoot that. You can't adjust for specific films. So my guess is that I'm not going to completely fault Bradford Young on this. He's known as someone who likes to use low light, but at the same time, I got to say, you do realize that you still need light.
No, I hate
to shoot
I hate low
something.
Light cinematography.
I'm not a fan either. I think it's lazy. Like just like the fucking scene. Okay, you don't need to use candles. Use lights. It's been around like since the dawn of cinema. But I'm not going to fault him completely. Because he does have an artistic way of doing it.
He's succeeded before, certainly.
He's succeeded before.
I mean, all those movies he made.
And they said that the reason he went with that type of style is because it's a quote unquote dark time. Okay, whatever. But I do see that there are some problems with the digital cinema presenting of this stuff because there is an absence of technicians who actually know how to work this stuff.
And that's twofold, I think, too, because the technology's gotten to a point where like maybe it can't be adjusted, but even if they could allow for that, movie theaters aren't hiring staff like that anymore. There's no specialists. I mean, like anybody that's hired there, like they would do the concession stand or do tickets, or I mean, like everybody there has to do everything
for the movie to start.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean,
that's all it is now.
But and I think that's like a systemic problem because movie theaters for a long time have been losing money on movies, and that's why movies keep getting more and more expensive. But they've not been able to staff adequately, and I'm sure they fall into that minimum wage like sinkhole where the people aren't well paid either.
Yeah, because you figure that if you were going to hire someone who actually knew what the hell they were doing with these projectors, that you could not pay them just $10 an hour.
Exactly.
Well,
God, if they even make $10, poor things.
Well, guys, even when people knew how to do these, like there were a lot of complaints. Speaking of other superhero movies, and I know Han Solo's not a superhero, but it's that type of movie. In 1989's Batman, a lot of people didn't calibrate those projectors, which were old school projectors correctly.
Oh, yeah,
and people was
that's
like,
true.
I can't see this damn movie.
It's
'cause
true.
Obviously, it was
I remember
dark
that.
as hell.
That makes sense.
And I often, when I would calibrate a TV, I would use Batman 89 when he has Vicky Vale in the Batcave, and I would do it until I couldn't see his abs on his bat outfit anymore, and then I would bring it back a little bit because I'm like, okay, now I crushed the dark. It's a little too far.
He does. John has like a list of movies that he
seriously?
likes to
That's
use.
what you
like,
do?
Yeah,
I also use Empire for the carbonite scene because of all the colors, the rich colors.
Yeah, and when my mom asked him to
awesome.
color correct her new TV, like he brought out like all of his movies and stuff, and my mom, God bless her, was like standing over him and being like, "Well, that's too dark," and like he was like,
You're just like, no, that's the way it's supposed to look.
Sometimes I like to
process.
push an extreme just to like see it. I don't know why, but so I crushed the blacks to the point where you almost couldn't see anything. And her mom was like, "Well, that's too dark." I'm like,
you know what you probably should do is take The Godfather.
Yeah.
'Cause The Godfather
that's a good one, Brian.
cinematography
That's a good one, Brian.
Is exceedingly dark.
Yeah.
So it's like if you can see Don Corleone's eyes, it's too not dark enough.
But
we'll be right back with Painting with Light with Brian John on our cinematography podcast.
And you can catch that show right after Vagina Soaps with Dr. John Woolscott.
It's true. But no, so I mean, to get back to the movie, I mean, I know that the darks was something that was kind of part of the problem, but for me, I mean, I didn't think any other part of the movie was beautiful either, and I think some of it was maybe the design, but it just seemed like everything was beige, like that yacht that they were on with Vision's like villain character or whatever, and then
sad when you're just referring to like. Here's the problem.
Vein face?
Vein face.
They were scars, weren't they scars, Brian? I thought it something had clawed his face.
I couldn't. I just saw him. I'm just like, oh, it's Vision trying to play a villain again.
Yeah, man, and he was
You can't play a villain once you play the hero.
He wasn't horrible.
He was the only thing I liked in the movie.
He wasn't horrible.
You know what I did like, and you guys will probably hate this. I actually liked Donald Glover as Lando.
I did too. John didn't. I liked him as Lando. Good. I did.
Guys,
except for one thing.
But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
So,
my last point about the cinematography was just kind of how everything was the same color and how everything was very like flat. It wasn't dynamic in color at all. Like, when he's off to war, like with the the Empire,
that was actually kind of neat looking.
That
it was okay, but it was very one note.
I had no problem with that because for me, it kind of reminded me of like trench warfare
Like
in
World
World
War
War
I
One
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and I could
know
see that.
that's probably what they were going for.
But then, we go to Kessel and it's
the same
flat
color.
sand. And then we go to
Savarine, yes.
and it's flat sand and
Look-
like a
look
tiny
at
bit of
you.
ocean. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
you got all the
sand planet
Yeah.
and the beach planet.
Yeah, so I mean, and I know a lot about this stuff, and a lot of my bias comes from being a fucking nerd. So we can talk about that later, but when we talk about the story. But that was one thing too that with this cinematography was so boring. The sets were so boring.
You know what really pissed me off was the goddamn cockpit. Every damn movie has got that right. They lit it correctly. But this movie, it was a dark blue. Like the power went out, and this is the emergency blue lighting.
Yeah, it was
How
almost
do
like
you
the
not
generator
light the
kicked on.
cockpit? Like I'm assuming there are lights in there.
Yeah.
It's not much of a stretch where the
Yeah.
lights are coming from.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, so let's talk about this a little more in the abstract. Let's go back a little.
All right.
My biggest problem is that this was not a movie that needed to be made. This
No.
is not a story that in any way, shape, or form needed to be told. I was introduced to Han Solo right when I was supposed to be. And say what you want about George Lucas, the man needs a lot of wrangling. He needs his screenplays rewritten and somebody else to direct. But the guy gave us Han Solo exactly when we were supposed to. Because he's a piece of crap. But
Han Solo. Also George Lucas, but that wasn't the
I'm
point
talking
you were
about
making.
Han
He's a piece
Solo.
of crap with a heart of gold.
Yeah, but then
at the end of the movie,
he redeems himself by the end of the movie. We didn't need to see piece of crap Han Solo at 22 or however old he's supposed to
proto
be.
piece of crap.
Well, too,
yeah.
and I didn't even think he was a piece of crap. Like I saw, a guy who did questionable things, but was trying to do the right thing, and that was him the whole time.
Yeah, this is the problem.
Like he wasn't a scoundrel. He wasn't a smuggler.
They needed to give him a story arc, but that's the problem with a character that you already gave a different story arc to. So where does he have to go now? Like, how does he recess back into being, a complete
Right.
scoundrel?
Well-
I will get to the ending where I think they tried to lay in. Oh, he,
Yeah.
I don't know. We should just maybe jump into that. He shoots first, folks.
Yes.
He shoots
John
first.
said on the way we were driving to the movie theater, and he was
kidding
like, on the way to the movie theater, John was like, he's gonna shoot first at something.
Yeah.
That literally you called it.
But I mean, the guy it was Woody Harrelson's character, which we'll break things down a little bit. But Woody Harrelson's character was going to kill him, so it wasn't even really that he was that much of a scoundrel.
I want to make a comment about that because here's the thing. I felt that if you were going to go forward with this movie, okay, I'm in the same camp as you, John. This movie should not have existed. It was not something that we asked for, just like we didn't ask for Rouge One either.
Rouge One.
But we
Star
got
Wars
that.
makeup
But we got
tutorial.
that one. I will say that this one I felt was slightly better than Rouge One. And I think they tried to correct some of the problems that Rouge One had. But for me, I would have thought that this movie would have had Han Solo at his most asshole level. Like he's supposed to be this, hot shot, jerk off, and he just wasn't. And it was like he was. It almost felt like they completely rewrote everything about him and said, you know what, he's not going to be a dick because we can't really root for that.
Yeah, he
We
needs
can't
to be
sell
likable
that,
enough
you
to
mean.
sell
You
the
know,
movie.
we can't
yeah.
sell him as an asshole and someone who, like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, if Han Solo, prior to A New Hope, had robbed people, shot people, and killed people, and, raped and murdered. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm gonna draw the line at rape and murder.
Yeah, Brian,
I don't think
at
rape
that
and murder
point,
was
you
a
lost
thing.
me.
Here's the reason why I say that.
Can we just take rape out?
Okay, let's
Because,
take rape.
that's
Let's just
not-
call- okay,
not a
Maybe
murdering.
thing.
Salacious Crumbs.
So
You should have seen what he was wearing.
okay,
John,
fine.
that's not funny.
I'll take out the rape, but I'm just saying, like, doing horrible things.
Well, I mean, to
Murder, yeah.
survive. I mean,
To
like,
survive.
for his line of work. So, I mean, the problem I have
Take out
is that I'm
don't
always going to
think
want to
Han's
take
a
that out.
rapist.
I don't either. So,
Although Empire.
Yeah.
so stop, guys. I'm trying to fucking talk. So, my issues here are twofold. And I'll go to the more pertinent one, and then I'll go to a more personal one. So, the first one that I had with the issue is like, I don't know what time we're in. I don't know how many years before we are in, because the way that the movie wrapped up, he was going to go and check out this like gangster on Tatooine.
Yes.
how long did he work for Jabba before he had a hard time and he had to dump that cargo and then he ended up in the parts of A New Hope? It seemed like maybe 18 months before the events of A New Hope. Like, that's not enough time. Like, John and I were talking about this last night because we went to see the movie together. You know, we always assumed that like he and Lando had like years of adventures together of like fucking each other over, being buddies, you know, going on runs together, like that sort of thing.
Well, see, I had a completely different. I felt like the Han Solo we meet in New Hope is like 36, and this is like he was 22. Here.
I envisioned Han Solo being in his early 30s.
Yeah, when we meet him in A New Hope.
Yeah.
So I figured, like, I didn't have too much of a problem with that. I would have liked to have known some time frame. You know, you could just say this was, I don't know, 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. That's kind of the Jesus mark. Like,
yeah, it's true. In the timeline,
Yavin is considered the standard of
BY and AY.
BY and AY. Okay?
Got it.
But it would have been nice to have some sort of reference to that. And just to kind of orient the audience, you know, that's what you want to do as a filmmaker, is orient the audience of time, and give us some reference to that. Because I always envisioned that maybe he was working for Jabba for maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Before, A New
Okay.
Hope. So, because at the end of this, he's in his like what, late 20s.
I guess. I mean, he's
29.
He goes to the Empire for what, like
so.
3 years?
He's working for them for 3 years, which that would have been interesting. Like, I don't know why that had to be put in there.
Well, okay. So let's break it down.
Yeah.
So my second problem,
Painfully.
the second problem with this is that this story didn't need to be told, but it was all stuff we already knew. And
Yes.
there was nothing in this that we couldn't have imagined ourselves. So this is not the first or last time I will mention these books, but there was a really great trilogy in the 90s that covered the origins of Han Solo. And to me, they are canon because I read them when I was young, and the books are amazing. And, you know, there was a lot of things that would have been really interesting to see, for Han Solo, because I thought that this much was canon, was that, Han saved Chewbacca's life, and that's why Chewbacca stayed with him, because he owed him a life debt.
Yeah, that part would have been nice.
Well, he does rescue Chewie from the Empire, but I always thought like Han like stuck his neck out way more, and like it was way more public instead of like escaping with Chewbacca from like a dirty hole in the ground like it was in Solo, a Star Wars story. Trademark. But
Patent pending.
but in the first book of this very good trilogy, they cover him being like an orphan and a beggar child on Corellia, where he learns how to pickpocket, or he learns how to cry and beg for money. I thought that would have been like more interesting,
Yes.
Because when we see him, we don't see him as a child at all. He is, like early 20s.
So would you think kind of like a Last Crusade thing, like where we see him as a kid and they do that like indie shot where like the kid has the hat put on him and then like the hat looks up and it's old Indiana Jones, like
No,
that
I mean,
kind
like,
of thing?
I don't think I would have wanted it like that. I mean, I don't think it would have needed to be like that. I don't know, like schmaltzy, where it's like, oh, he's a kid and he has the hat now as an adult. Oh, we know where the hat came from. I think the problem was that they did try to kind of do a lot of Indiana Jones-esque kind of things where they explained, things that we already had. But like, what about just making this like a fresh story? Like, what about not being too referential? Like the fact that we saw the Kessel Run, I was like,
No, hold on, don't get there yet.
Yeah, well, I just,
but-
I mean, I was going to say, like, we didn't need to see the Kessel Run because that was just something that a not very honest smuggler was bluffing about so he could get, this old man and this like weirdo kid to hire him to take them to Alderaan. Like he just said it. Like we didn't need to see like, him trying to pilot and then putting like a drop of space juice in the engine to go boom boom.
I want to make one thing clear, okay? This was something that I saw on CinemaSins when they were talking about The Last Jedi.
Okay.
The biggest problem they had with it, and it came up in this movie, and it was the whole crux of this whole movie, was the idea of fucking space fuel. Okay?
Yeah.
Nowhere in any Star Wars movie, other than the last two we've had,
Yeah.
have any starships required fuel to run.
Or like specific fuel.
Like, no, just any fuel in general. have you ever seen any Star Wars movie other than the last two where fuel has been reliant on it? Like in The Last Jedi, it was, we can't get to them because they have too much fuel, but they're going to run out of space fuel, and then we'll be able to get them.
Well,
and this
there's
was
been
all
batteries.
But what I mean is the idea that, hey, you're going to run out of gas soon in space is going to be the crux of the movie. In this one, it was, we need to steal that space fuel.
That's true.
Like that part.
Well, Disney brought fuel into
I was
the
like,
equation.
what the fuck is the matter with you? Okay?
I would just love to watch Han at the pump.
Yeah,
filling up the Falcon.
That would be amazing.
$5 a gallon.
but that was something that I saw that in Solo, and I was just like, are we seriously gonna keep explaining the space fuel thing now? Was that all Last Jedi was about? Was the idea that, hey, starships run on fuel now?
Well, speaking on the parsecs thing, in one of the earlier drafts of A New Hope, when it was just called Star Wars, before George,
remember those days?
Before George threw A New Hope on there,
I remember.
There is a screen direction where Obi-Wan, when he says 12 parsecs, rolls his eyes, and they basically insinuate that they know that Han misspoke because he didn't know what he was saying, and he was trying to sound more important than he really was.
Right.
So no, he didn't make the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs because that is a unit of measure, and you can try to retroactively make a continuity, but he got through a wormhole and blah, blah, blah. No, he misspoke because he's an idiot.
Well, not even an idiot. Like, he misspoke because he was just trying to bluster.
Yeah, he's lying.
Yeah, no, he was just lying because he
he's a
was trying to
scoundrel.
seem better,
Yeah.
you know?
He's trying to sell his crappy ass ship. Which, good going, Han. You fucked up the Falcon.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah, that was rough.
You really, wrecked Lando's car.
That was rough.
But, this film, to me, also had no stakes, and that's the problem with anything that has, flashbacks or
Yeah,
is a
we know
prequel.
they live.
Yeah, because there's a scene when they're on a train, because they're trying to steal some stuff off a train, where Chewie, they can't pull him in, and he's about to
Was
hit,
that even in the movie? It just seemed like it was
that
from the
was in
trailer.
but there's about to
Blacked
hit,
out for
a
a minute.
metal beam. I'm like, gee, I wonder if he lives.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a problem, where you can't really have exciting scenes like that because it's not the what, it's the how. He lives, and you have to make the how interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing interesting about
Hey,
this movie.
You don't know. He could have had his arm ripped off, and they had to create a new one.
There was absolutely nothing interesting about this movie. I think that was really the issue at hand. Where and two, there wasn't a lot of structure to the plot. It just seemed like we went from thing to thing, and things happened here and happened there.
It was very much a plot-driven movie. There was no real character development at all.
That's what I was saying to Lane right after we came out of this movie, because I couldn't help myself. We usually try to behave, but I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, we talked. We never usually talk about the movies, but we just couldn't.
The problem
couldn't
is
shut up.
Is that your first act is supposed to set up the situations, but also your characters. There were no characters in this. We just introduced to Han and his, I guess, girlfriend in a room that is too dark to see, and they immediately start running for the space train station. And I don't know who any of these people are. I mean, imagine if you have never seen any of the other Star Wars films, because Disney has to assume that. Just pretend for a second that I don't know who Han Solo is.
Right.
And it's like, oh, these are supposed to be fun space movies, so I'm going to go see this. They can't rely on the idea that I already know who Han Solo is, because they don't really introduce who he is. They don't introduce who this woman is. And, it's just, we just get thrown right in, and then we get introduced to Woody Harrelson's character, and then 5 minutes later, they are just moving on with the action. You don't get introduced to any of these characters, and therefore there are no stakes, because you don't give a crap about any of these people.
Well, too,
they're all just vessels to carry the story forward.
Well, too, I mean, and even if you didn't know any of the characters, there's nothing in the movie itself that, starts you fresh. It was clear from the story that they had worked for some kind of crime lord on Corellia that owned it seemed like a lot of the people around there. And so
was her name Lady Proxima or some bullshit like that?
Yeah, Lady something. I can't remember. But what happened was, clearly they had been pushed around by her. She was probably taking all the money that they were earning or whatever they were doing for her. It would have been nice to even just see 10 minutes of them struggling against her. Like we were at the end of the problem, so we didn't give a shit about their problem.
Right.
Like they were on their way out of the situation, but it would have been nice to see why they wanted out of the situation in the first place. Like, not to say there weren't good reasons, but like we need to see those reasons to give a shit.
And I think that's where movies like Batman Begins, which a lot of people criticize as being mostly about Bruce Wayne, and you really only get Batman after, like, 2/3 of the movie. That movie is successful because it does give you time
And gives you a reason to give a shit.
and a reason to give a shit. And that's the thing is, I think it's a double-edged sword, because some people are like, well, I just came to see Batman. Why am I getting, like, 2/3 of the movie is Bruce Wayne? And I think people are like, oh, I came to see Han Solo and I really don't care what's other shit. But it's like, you have to have that stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need to have a good
it.
story. Like, you can't just like blindly listen to an audience, because a lot of times, like, audiences don't necessarily know what they want. What they want is a good story. They just don't know that.
Yes.
Well, look at the first Star Wars movie. We meet Luke and we learn his problems and his dreams.
Yeah,
and his
absolutely.
desires, so that when Luke actually goes on an adventure, I'm excited for him and worried for him because I care about him.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Yeah, when these movies are made good and they're not just forced out on an assembly line to
I mean,
to pump them out by May whatever.
I knew I probably wasn't going to like this movie, like I said, just because I'm very attached to my own ideas of where Han Solo came from. But man, like, when the reviews started coming in of like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, like, number one, that's not good.
No.
That's not good.
Well, the biggest problem with Han Solo is that, and with all of these Star Wars films, is we feel an ownership to them, and everybody has their own mind made up about what Han Solo's origin stories or some of his adventures, and it's almost a double-edged sword. There's no way the studio is going to win because everybody has a different idea of where Han Solo came from, because it's never explicitly said. So you're never going to make people happy because they all have their own idea, and that just means eventually we all have ownership over these movies.
And and honestly, like, that's a great point to make. That's the reason I feel that so many people really disliked Last Jedi, even though I liked it. I thought it was actually pretty good because it was different. And it treated these characters that we know differently. But if these people have ownership over these characters, then absolutely they're going to feel like something was violated. Now, I think where Disney does succeed is in the area of newer characters in development. Okay, so when I talk about Star Wars Rebels and why I love it so much is because those are completely original characters. Nobody has any ownership of them. So you basically are starting fresh. You're starting with, okay, these characters exist in a Star Wars universe and may encounter the characters that we know of. Like, there's a couple episodes in Rebels where they do encounter Lando.
Yeah, those I like those
and
episodes.
Those are great.
They're good episodes.
And there's episodes where they encounter Princess Leia. And Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, and even Darth Maul.
Yeah,
which that comes back into this.
And it's a huge point because they're very light-handed with it. It's just like a touch here, like just maybe like one episode, and not even the whole episode. And they aren't just like turning around and like winking at you the whole time. Like,
no,
the writing is more about the Rebels characters. It's more about Ezra and Hera, and what's Freddie Prince's name? Kanan
Jarrus.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr. does his voice?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the series is over now, but
yeah, he did his voice. But but they're light-handed with it, and it's more about the characters that exist rather than, these characters that And when you were saying about ownership of the series, John, I think that that's very difficult for people maybe our age, and like, I'm nerdier than y'all. But when I had those books, like the old extended universe in the 90s, you were kind of allowed to roam in that universe by yourself. You didn't have Disney telling you what to think and feel. Even Lucasfilm wasn't that big of an entity in the mid 90s, like, because this was long before the prequels. This was, before a lot of the things had happened there. I mean, if you had, I think, the okay from a publisher, I think you were able to write anything you wanted about the Star Wars universe.
Lucasfilm back then really, they weren't making the prequels. They didn't even think to make the prequels.
They were, ILM was a thing, but Lucasfilm was mostly diverted to LucasArts, doing a lot of video game and computer game work.
Computer game work. It was, toys, the special editions. It was not even an idea of, hey, we're going to make another Star Wars movie. So, they really didn't care if people came up with their own stories. They just wanted to say, okay, yeah, that's fine.
And like I said, you were allowed to wander that universe yourself, and you were allowed to kind of, take the pieces that you wanted with you. And now they're trying to kind of like go back and, they've discounted a lot of the work that's been done before, but now they're pulling some things in to be canon, like Thrawn is canon.
Yeah.
Dathomir now is canon for anybody who read The Courtship of Princess Leia. That's the planet that,
Arthur's canon.
Darth Maul comes from Dathomir.
right. But before then, Dathomir was a planet in The Courtship of Princess Leia, which is one of the books from the 90s. And so, parts of that, were created. They end up on this place called Dathomir. That's where the Night Witches come from, or the Night Sisters. Because that's referenced in Rebels as well because of Darth Maul, because that's where he's from.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually a planet ruled by women, which I feel like that part of things hasn't like come over to this Star Wars universe, but like we could like do more of that. Like I also thought it was very tiresome that this story had like, 2 female characters.
Wait,
one
Is Ron
character
Howard
of color.
not a female of color?
I think that these movies benefit from a different perspective always.
I felt that Emilia Clarke?
Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones
was a completely, utterly useless character in this film.
She the acting wasn't bad though.
It's not her fault.
She wasn't a bad actor necessarily.
I'm just saying her character served no purpose.
None. Absolutely none.
She was just who Han had all the snuggle feels for.
Yeah, but I'm literally saying there was no purpose for her.
There was no independent character to her.
It almost felt like I was watching Doctor Strange again.
Well, they made her kind of strong. They made her kind of like assassin-y, I guess.
Yeah.
But we never really knew her loyalties. We never really knew like what had happened to her in the times that we hadn't seen her. Like it was very odd. Like they left more questions than answers with her.
All you got was she's done things. Like that's all that Vision says to her is, oh, she's done things.
I love that we keep calling him Vision.
Vision and Dragon Queen. Dragon Queen's done some stuff.
She's seen some shit.
And you're just like,
and
you
just
making a sexual reference, Vision?
Yeah, and like no,
like that's what I took it as.
That they were like in a sexual relationship.
Yes.
I thought she was maybe some kind of slave or like trafficked somehow,
Basic-
but they never explained it, which was so annoying.
I guarantee only butt stuff, no eye contact.
God damn it, John. Can we get through one episode where you don't talk about butt stuff?
You guys are talking about cartoons and books, and I'm just looking out the window.
Well, I'm sorry, but this is important to talk about the rest of the universe.
But no, the problem with Han Solo is the same problem we had with Darth Vader. Like, you think you want to know a lot about Darth Vader, but then you see him as like a little kid in a pod racer, and you're like, I don't want to know about Darth Vader anymore.
And then there's midichlorians, and you're like, oh God, I really didn't want any of this.
I actually like midichlorians.
And then you see whiny little bitch Darth Vader.
I actually like midichlorians because I don't understand why one Jedi is more powerful than another unless there's something out there. So I'm one of the few defenders of midichlorians.
Well, I always thought it was just like any natural talent.
Get the fuck out.
I thought it was always just like any natural talent. I mean, like,
why is Yoda so much better in the Force than...
Because of practice.
Why is Vincent Van Gogh so much better an artist than us? Like, I mean, people are naturally supernaturally good at something.
I looked at it as this energy field exists throughout the universe and that certain people are able to tap into it. And certain people
are able to
tap into it and manipulate it through practice. And whether it be good or bad, I didn't need to know that it was biological, basically larva that gets into your body and gives you powers. Okay, that made no sense. Like it literally makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's
none
like
of this
any
makes
other
any sense. It's the Force is just it's nonsense.
But it's like any other skill. Like I mean,
anyways,
so
sorry, I got off on a tangent, and I know I started that, but you realize you don't want to know about Darth Vader. You also don't want to know about Han Solo. You just want to know that he's like a dashing rogue. He's had a lot of crazy adventures. He's done a lot of crazy things. And if you leave it at that, you don't need every single thing he's done spelled out for you because then there's no mystery or mystique.
And again, I mean, I'm not trying to like hit this point too hard, but like, to have like a book or a comic series or something of Han Solo, like maybe of previous adventures would have been fine, but to try to make this the be all end all of his origin story and to just like hit all these points of things that we already knew were a thing just to have them spelled out, like there was no mystery. There was no intrigue. There was nothing exciting about it.
And I would have loved them to have the balls to not put everything that we know about Han Solo in this movie, because they felt
They
the
did.
need
That's all they
to
did.
kind of wrap everything up. That's why he went to see Jabba way too early at the end of the movie,
Because,
we
remember, it's
needed to hear
Jabba.
Jabba. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen this movie, and they never would have the balls to do this without the Falcon, without Chewie, without Lando. Because to me, I always thought Lando was just one of many people he knew, not his bestest good buddy that he met.
Like I said,
as
I mean,
a young guy, he was
years-
just another smuggler.
And I thought it was years of them like fucking each other over. Like I think, they didn't talk for a while after he won the Falcon, maybe.
You know what?
But-
it almost kind of would have been nice, kind of like, and this is another Lucas property, but in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you have Indiana and Belloc, and you get the inclination that they literally compete with each other, over and over again. Every
Yeah.
single time that Indiana has, a bead on an artifact, Belloc just swoops in and grabs it from him.
Once again, Dr. Jones, there's nothing you can have that I cannot take
Exactly,
away.
and but the thing I love about that
That was
is
sick, by the way.
you get kind of
Good sick.
But what's nice about it is you set up a relationship that even though that's only happened once, and we're getting the tail end of it, we're seeing that hey, this happens all the time for Indiana. That no matter what he does, it always ends up being this way. And I always figured, just like you, John, that Lando was basically that guy.
Yeah.
That Lando would kind of always swoop in, like Han would have a woman and Lando would steal her or some shit like that.
The
Yeah.
relationship that I think they did it right was in Guardians of the Galaxy with Blue Merrill and Star-Lord.
Yeah.
What was his
Blue
name?
Merrill.
Shit.
Anyways, but their relationship was one of, I screwed you over and you screwed me over, but we still, obviously it was more father-son, but still a
Oh,
loving
you mean
relationship.
Yondu?
Yondu, that's
yeah.
it. Oh, I could not think of
'cause
that.
we're at the end of the first Guardians now. Granted, Yondu's dead now, so we can't continue that. But at the, he sees that Star-Lord fucked him over, but he gets that smile on his face. You son of a bitch, you got this one, but I'll get you back. That's
Yeah.
the relationship that
Yeah.
Han and Lando should have had.
But I think it's missing that, and I will say that I did think that Donald Glover was a bright note.
all right, let's talk about the
the
performances.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, the guy did not look anything like Harrison Ford. Did not sound.
Oh, you're talking
like
about
Harrison Ford.
you're talking about Han himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Shit, I had his.
Did not-
I
yeah,
had
did
his
not
name
look
up.
like Han Solo. Did not
His
sound like
name's.
His name is Aiden Ironrock.
Hold on a second. I have to see it.
Ironrock.
And
I
he's
had it
a
up just a
bad
second ago.
actor. He's fucking horrible.
Okay, Alden
Alden Iron.
Ehrenreich, maybe.
Ehrenreich, I
Ehrenreich,
think is
maybe.
it.
Okay, so yeah,
German.
it really bothered me how little he looked like Harrison Ford. And I'm sorry, like with as many young people that want to be actors today, you want to tell me they couldn't find a guy who looked like a young Han Solo or a young Harrison Ford and could act like better than that? Like, I
Well,
mean,
they
that's
already got what's his face for Kylo, so they can't use him again. He kind of looks like Harrison Ford.
Adam Driver. You think so?
The nose. It's the nose.
Interesting.
If you look at Harrison Ford when he was younger, he had a
Interesting.
bigger nose
Listen,
than
younger Harrison Ford was extremely attractive.
Yeah.
It's a
Take it easy.
distracting element of this story.
Take it easy.
But I mean,
So that's why you
Wow.
like
Take it
those
easy.
Han Solo books.
yes. But no, but no, I mean, like, you can't just pick some kid who's like aesthetically okay looking
Yeah.
and expect that to fit. What was wrong? Was Alden's jaw too wide? Like there was just something.
He had a big head.
There was something very different about the shape of his face as
It-
compared to
he
Harrison
had-
Ford.
His head was kind of weird shape, and the haircut they gave him didn't match.
It didn't help
at all.
It's true.
Like,
it was a
kind
more
of almost
modern
looked
haircut.
like a wig.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
you know why this, like, X-Men First Class? You know why that worked? Because it was supposed to be them, like, 50, 60 years
Yeah, it's
younger.
true. This is supposed
So
to be what, like 8 years?
You could literally almost cast anybody as long as they're the same, like, gender. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is fine because,
It's
just
true.
become old people. This is him, like, 10 years apart from the Harrison Ford character?
Yeah, so I mean, like, if you think about it's like the duration of our marriage, like, we didn't look that much different when we were just engaged than we do now.
We both our wedding photo. I'm black. You're Chinese. It's like, wow, look how much we changed.
You're the worst. But yeah, I mean, but on top of it, he didn't capture. I mean, I'm really glad that he didn't just try to do a Harrison Ford imitation, because that would have been a disaster.
He did a little bit.
Well,
You guys think so? I
that
didn't
smile thing. That's the only thing he learned. He tried to do that cocksure smile. That remember when in Empire when he's like, she showed her true feelings for me, when he's talking about Leia and he has that.
He does that. He does that smile. a lot.
He did that 90 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just meant like with the inflection of his voice and whatnot. Like, at least he didn't do that.
Well, speaking of just doing an impression, Brian, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I did not like Donald Glover in this movie because he was doing an elaborate impression of.
I don't know.
What's his face?
I feel
Lando,
okay.
A Billy D.
So I have very complicated feelings about Donald Glover, and I think that they're just rooted in jealousy, because he's
our age and he's done way more.
He's done so many things that I would also like to have done too, right? Like, I mean, he's been involved with, with comedy writing, and he's gotten to be in things, and he's like. He also has a music career on top of like his acting and writing and all that. So I think it's just rooted in jealousy, but I'm not like a big fan. Not for any real reason. I mean, I'm just a jealous asshole. Yeah. But and I freely admit. But with this, like, I feel like he is he's one that's very entrenched in pop culture, and if it was a very elaborate imitation, I feel like it was born out of research and love. Like, I feel like he did.
That's the thing too, and that's why I don't have a problem with it. Is I felt that he could have gone way on the deep end and really like tried to parody Billy D.
Yeah,
and he didn't. He just pulled elements. Like, yes, his voice was a little bit lower than the way he usually talks, and some of his mannerisms did kind of go with that, but he also added his own things to it.
Yeah, I feel like he really thought about what Lando would be like as a young man.
Yes.
Well, that's the catch-22 of it, though, isn't it? And I mean, I know some people are listening and said, well, John, I guess they can't win according to you. And I would say you're absolutely right. You don't want to stray too far from it and be like, well, that's not the character. But then if you get too close to it, it's like you're doing an impression. I have a solution. Don't make this movie.
All my problems are solved.
But I will say, and I'll end this part on Lando, and then Lane, you have a comment. The one thing I hated was his robot love. Like his he had a thing for his robot.
Well, I mean, we should talk about this because this is important. So,
to fuck his robot.
They did announce, as a part of the movie that that Lando is pansexual. And
after the fact.
And in the universe, the Star Wars universe, I mean, like robot on human is a thing.
Droids? Is it?
I mean, that's a thing.
Is that a thing?
Does R2 have a fuckhole?
I think we need to be very careful about this, John, where we're not just saying things like fuckhole. Like, I think we need to kind of think about this.
Input.
Because I did a little reading on this, and because for the idea that he was pansexual, I think that's really important because we need more inclusion in the Star Wars universe. So I think when we get to the point where Lando is introduced and then L3, the robot, is introduced, she talks to Kira about how she thinks Lando has feelings for her. Now they've never been together, I'm guessing, based on this conversation, because she says like Lando has feelings for me, and I've thought about it a few times, but like we're just not compatible, and then Kira kind of laughs and is like, how does that work? And L3 says it just does. So there must be some kind of precedent for this. I mean, it's not the only time it's been mentioned in sci-fi.
No, I mean, you kind of envision it more with like humanoid droids.
Yeah,
like,
you would imagine it with more,
skin.
but again, like if my understanding of pansexuality is that you fall in love with like the person, the essence, like who they are, instead of what they look like. It does make sense, in that respect.
I just know that when I saw the scene where she gets killed and like Lando's freaking out and holding her half,
he's mourning
like
her,
really mourning her. I just got a flashback to this movie. Do you remember the movie Blank Man?
I don't.
Yes.
With Damon Wayans.
Yes.
And the scene where J5, his wash tub robot blows up and he
Yeah.
loses his shit. And he's like, J5, speak to me. Oh, don't die, J5. I just kept thinking of that. I'm
That's
like,
actually a pretty good name.
oh
Right,
my
right.
God, they're pulling it from Blank Man.
Well, but at the same time, they didn't play it for laughs.
No,
you know,
they
like,
didn't. I
mean,
know.
I thought Donald Glover's
Guys.
performance in this part was very good, and two, I mean, like the other characters treated the death, very much like
The death of a major character.
of Thandie Newton's character earlier in
Yes.
the movie when she had died.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that makes a difference.
Guys, when did droids become people?
I mean,
In the original movies, they're just machines. They're tools.
Well, in the original movies, they said we don't let your kind in here, so they kind of are the same class as people.
I
And-
never
and
understood
can
that
be-
scene. Like that's always seemed odd to me. Like droids are just overlooked and ignored throughout
Yeah.
the first three films because they're just machines. And I always thought that 3PO was a little bit more cognizantly aware of his surroundings just because the script needed him to be.
Yeah.
But he's still a droid, and R2 had dog-like traits, but that was just to make him more marketable. But they're just machines,
Yeah.
aren't they? Do
Well-
they have souls? Do they have robot souls?
This is getting really existential.
I just, yeah, I mean, like his robot blew up, right? And I mean, you could still be close to your robot, but that robot had so much personality,
Yeah.
and it's strange because it was voiced by a white woman, but they had kind of like
I actually
the
liked the
sassy
actress.
black woman trope.
I
happening.
like the actress that they got.
I wasn't
for it.
familiar with her, but I thought
was-
she did a good job
I
in
was
this.
familiar with her because it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She does a TV show called Fleabag, and it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I knew the voice. I'm like, oh my God, it's the woman from Fleabag.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know who she was.
But I just thought it was a little weird that he wanted to be with his robot.
I mean,
Well,
I
completely disagree with you, Lane. I think the joke was that the droid thought that Lando wanted her when she actually wanted Lando, and he saw her as his droid. I thought the joke was like, she thinks he wants to have sex with a droid.
I mean, it wasn't played for laughs though.
wasn't.
People were laughing in the theater.
I mean, I think her delivery was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
But his reaction to her dying was not.
Exactly. Like I think that's where it was like a little bit up for debate.
Yeah.
So
Question 2. 3PO gets blown into like 50 pieces,
Yes.
and then they just put him back together, and he's fine. Why couldn't they just why did this?
I mean,
droid
this
die?
is not that podcast, John. If you're just gonna like take point by point and ask me things about
Okay.
the universe, like we're gonna be here
I
all
don't
fucking
know.
day.
I
Like,
don't
I
know if robots have souls. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
All right, let's get back to the pansexual
Yes.
thing. So,
So I was very interested in this part because I think that the Star Wars galaxy needs to be a lot more diverse than it's
Absolutely.
historically been.
Absolutely.
Of all characters to choose, I think Lando's a good one because he is very sexualized, but I think that that's somewhat problematic. John and I talked about this a little bit, was because, he's introduced in the 80s in Empire, as a bit of a lady killer.
Yes.
And I think that that's kind of a stereotype that if you're pansexual, then you just, are insatiable. And that's not true. That's incorrect, and that's a damaging
And
perspective.
they did do that a little bit in this film.
Yeah,
too.
so to do that with Lando, I did feel was a tiny bit problematic, just because I think it reinforces untrue stereotypes and doesn't give people the real information about things.
Right.
So
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, because the problem is that, like you said, that is a horrible stereotype of, pansexual, you just want to have sex with anybody. You're a giant whore. Like, for people that aren't educated about
Right.
it.
Right.
But the problem is that when you pick a character who is a giant whore, regardless of his sexuality, it only enforces those stereotypes.
Yeah.
Where, it's like in the earlier, like in the 80s movies when it's like, oh, we have a lesbian character in our movie, and she's a giant slutty whore that wants to kiss every woman. Like, no, that's just reinforcing the negative stereotypes for your own, like,
Amusement.
dick pleasures.
Looking at you, Basic Instinct.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, while I think the idea of inclusive was good, there are reasons why I thought Lando was a good character for this. There were some problems with it as well. I did a lot of reading on this, and I also I want to cite the article in Bust magazine's website that mentions this. The author of that article couldn't speak to being a queer person of color But one of the things that has been pointed out about Lando, being pansexual is that a lot of times, he's black, and being black, sometimes you see that black people are fetishized in a way that white people are not. So I can't speak to that experience, and that's not my thought. Like, that came from the article that I read, but I thought it was an interesting point to make. Instead of making, a white character that way, they did choose to make the black character that way. So, but there's more to talk about in this movie now than in movies past, because there is more diversity. I thought that the references to any possible pansexuality of Lando were kind of...
You only hit on women.
No, it was blink and you miss it, because I was really bothered that I didn't see it. Because I was like...
Did he hit on men? Because I didn't see it.
There's one point where L3 tells him to stop flirting with Han.
Oh.
She says, stop flirting. And then he says, you better buckle up, baby. And it was a little suggestive. I think it's a pussy's way out. Honestly,
yes,
I thought it was a very weak...
It's a safe Disney way.
It was a weak Disney offering.
I just saw him as being like a cool, suave guy. Like, you better buckle up, baby.
I mean, that's what I thought of it as too, but that is very much what you're talking about.
Yep, if you put it in that context. Yep. I think it's a little too blink if you miss it. I think if they really wanted to commit to this character and wanted to commit to diversity, then they should have fucking done it. Instead of like being in both camps of like, oh, well, we have diversity, but don't worry, we won't offend your children.
Let's
let's
be honest here. This is Disney we're talking about.
Disney needs to do better.
Disney has no balls. Okay?
Yeah, and they need to do better.
They literally are the doll that has the balls removed. Okay, and there's just this blank thing there. The Ken bump. That's all it is. That's what Disney is. Instead of a dick and balls, it's just a bump. Okay, because a real filmmaker would say, you know what, we're going to go with this? Fine. Then we will have, maybe Lando hit on Han a bit harder.
Yeah.
Guys, they made this decision after they made the movie.
Yes.
Because they had a checklist left in a big boardroom, and they said, what is the one thing we haven't hit yet to make us look like as diverse as possible so we can make as much money as possible?
Right.
Pansexual, check. Lando. And that was it.
Again, I mean,
and now we go back through the movie and try to find hints. Oh, he kind of flirted with Han there. We're just making it up after the fact because they didn't even think of it till after the movie was finished.
Well, we talk about this all the time, like doing things for the wrong reasons. And like I said, I didn't like Rogue One, but the fact that the cast was a lot more diverse as far as ethnicity goes. Was a great thing. I don't care if they did it for the right reasons, and they didn't do this for the right reasons either. No. But I also thought it was clumsily executed.
If you're going to do something like this, want to hit on some of the secondary characters here?
Sure, yeah.
We could talk all day about Lando and all of the shit.
Can we talk about his capes really quick, because they were so good? Jesus.
I knew he wore a cape in Empire, but I didn't know he was that into capes.
I didn't know the man loved capes.
It was amazing. Apparently for the movie, they made so many capes. Yeah. I want to see them all.
Do you guys remember when 3PO was blowing up in Empire and he said, I have a problem with your droid? He wasn't real broken up about it.
Take it easy. All right?
Droids are people.
Okay, so John's new podcast, Our Droids People, will be coming out next week.
He'll be having that podcast followed by Vagina Soaps with Dr. John Woldscroft. And
followed by Painting with Light, a cinematography podcast.
Hey, if you lick the soaps, you're a pervert and you should clean your mouth out with soap. And so it's a continuing cycle.
We've lost it. Solo just cracked us.
So side characters here. We talked a little bit about Kira. I really don't want to talk more about her because, as I said, she kind of was pointless.
Yeah.
I think the only one that does have some gravitas to it is Woody Harrelson's character, Tobias Beckett.
Oh, so boring.
He's tried to give some gravitas. He really doesn't.
I was distracted by the fact it was Woody Harrelson. I think he's gotten to the point now where it's like, oh, look, it's Woody Harrelson.
He's been in too many entities too. You know what I mean? Like, because he was so good
Planet
in the Hunger Games. I thought, he was so good in that. Like, it's weird seeing him in a Star Wars movie, and maybe that's my fault as a viewer. But at the same time, like when you do casting like that, like you've got to be careful where you don't pick somebody where you're just like, ooh, Haymitch is in this movie.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I felt was he was supposed to play basically like a proto Han Solo. Like that's what I got out of him, is that he's basically just a scoundrel without any redemption. He's kind of at the end of.
He's also not charming, you know.
No, he's not. He's just kind of
by the books kind of
not
guy.
Being handsome helps too.
Not being handsome.
Sorry, Woody Harrelson's not handsome. Never was.
But I felt that they tried to push this whole father-son type mentor because Han doesn't
really?
have a
I didn't
father.
get that. But I see where you're coming from.
But it just, I'm just saying it didn't work.
Yeah.
Han's guns him
That's the
down.
problem is I'm saying it didn't work. Like they tried to, but
Right.
it was like, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was forgettable. I thought like his band of like people were forgettable.
Yeah.
Just this like random bunch of smugglers, like, and it never explains it, but like they came on to the planet where Han is like still in the Empire and like he's fighting and stuff, but it never said why they infiltrated the Empire.
They wanted to
basically.
steal get a bead on the fuel, right?
Is that why they were?
Or I think they were trying to steal a ship or some shit like that.
Yeah, but I mean, they were trying to steal something, but like, why would you go up against the Empire and its resources? Like, there's got to be better smuggling.
Oh
to
no,
do.
that's the big fish in town. I mean, it's the same thing with Rebels. Rebels was going after the Empire as well.
Well, yeah,
There are
but
so
for
many war
rebellion, like they were
profiteers.
trying to, like steal things from the Empire to fuck the Empire up. I mean, these guys just were stealing stuff to make money.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of Rebels, and I like to reference that, they were not trying to steal stuff for the rebellion. They were just trying to steal stuff to make money.
That's true.
As a big history nerd in the room, every war has massive war profiteers,
Yes.
even
Okay,
at
well, that's fair.
extreme danger.
So I got
got
what
ya.
they were doing. I guess for me, the big thing was just as as we said, pretty much every other character, with the exception of Han and Lando, were completely forgettable and kind of useless.
I agree.
So Woody Harrelson's character, we knew he wasn't going to make it.
I like Paul Bettany.
He
like
was
Vision?
okay. He was okay in it.
he had like a menace about him.
Yeah, he was all right.
He
He
had
wasn't
kind
bad.
of the nice thing about him was that he had that whole like English charm shit going on. But at the
Yeah.
same time, he's like, "I'll fucking kill you." Like
That
don't
was kind
fail
of like
me again,
like the
or
smiling.
I will murder you.
Yeah. Something
go
we
ahead.
guys didn't talk about yet. Speaking of side characters, what about that like Imperial recruiter that just named Han Solo?
Oh, fuck him.
Because he had like no last name. Can we talk about how
yeah.
offensive that
Fuck
was?
him.
Guys, we forget because we have rose-colored glasses because we saw these movies when we were like 5 years old. But Han Solo is a stupid fucking name for 5-year-olds.
Why do you constantly shit on my dreams?
But it is. So I'm almost grateful they were like, let's give it. This is more of like a nickname because it's so stupid. Oh, you're by yourself. Now you're Han Solo. Suck on that, dickhead.
You know what?
Why
You know
don't
what
you
would
just
have been.
punch me in the heart, you monster?
You know what would have been nice though. You know what would have been nice is if he had the name Solo already, and the recruiter was just like, "That's a dumb name."
That would have been fine.
Like
I would have been okay
that
with
would have
that.
been okay. That would have
No,
been
the
fine.
fact that this Imperial officer named
Dumb
him, like
fucking
that does nothing that I know about Han Solo makes me think that he would let someone else name him.
Well, I mean, that there's Han's cousin who's Polish, Stephen Bymaselski.
Stephen by
But I think this is where this movie failed. Like it took these very important and elemental things and just absolutely did disservice to
Yeah.
the character. Like I don't think that the man Han Solo, I mean, if we're like really talking real here, I don't think Han Solo from A New Hope Empire, I don't think he would have let someone else name him. If he didn't have a name, he'd have given it to himself.
Personally, I don't think Han Solo that we know would by any chance serve the Empire in any capacity
Well, I mean that's been
for
something
3 years.
Well, that's been something that, has been floating around in extended universe and then canon and all that. So, I mean, that's something that I've accepted where he thought it was a better life, but he didn't realize it. Now, I think my understanding of previous times, he lasted maybe 9 months.
Well, that's
Not
what I'm
3
saying
years.
is you flash forward 3 years and it's, he's been in the Empire for 3 years. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
Han
that
Solo?
doesn't work.
Like,
It doesn't work.
really?
Well, and also just elaborate ruse to get back to his lady. Like 3 years in, Han, I think he gave up. I think you're just in the army now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
dude.
much.
So I do think that this movie,
Well, I want to hit on one last
Really
character,
failed.
and this was the big ha gotcha. And you know what I'm going to, don't you?
he was so mad.
The thing is, there were people, they looked at me because I went, what?
He was so angry. And it's true. Everybody in the theater turned around.
Scream what?
They just turned around.
No,
like,
he was.
What?
John was so pissed, Brian. It was so bad.
You really screamed what in the middle of the theater?
I'm like, oh, cool. The guy's cloaked. We're not going to see who he is because it doesn't really matter who it is. Oh, it's fucking Darth Maul.
Oh my god! It was. Thank God we have MovieCast because we might have been kicked out. Like John was so upset.
So I'm of course referencing, and John's referencing the surprise cameo from Darth Maul himself.
So like, wait. I mean, so obviously John has strong opinions. So I want you to go second because I have a couple things to say.
I do too.
But like, what I mostly don't understand is why he looked like shit. Because he looked like an old man, put that makeup on, and but like, why
Ray
wouldn't
Park
you?
has aged, so there is that.
But why?
I thought you said AIDS for a second.
No, he's not
Guys,
aged.
doing that thing where I was talking and then you're
sorry.
talking. Why get the actor back when you could literally? It's a fucking hologram. You could just CGI that shit and make him look young. I don't fucking get it.
That part I didn't have a problem
He
with.
looked old. It was weird.
Because then we would have complained about that.
Well, no, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I had no problem with. I actually like the fact that Maul was in it, and I'll get to the reasons why.
Cool. I didn't have John's problem with it.
I didn't have John's problem, and
He's dead.
no,
He's
not. No, he's not.
He is not.
Now here's the thing.
You go first.
Okay.
John is like in a lather
please don't
over
throw
here.
my microphone while you hear all this stuff. Okay. But for people who have followed past the movies, okay, if you read the comic books, if you watch the TV shows, he's in both animated TV shows. He's both in the Clone Wars and he's also in Rebels. He's actually very prominent in Rebels.
Yes.
So Maul did survive. That was found in Clone Wars. In Clone Wars, you found out that he survived at the base of Naboo. It wasn't Naboo, was it? Yeah, it was.
Was it Naboo?
Yeah, it was Naboo.
Yeah, he was cut in half at the end of Phantom Menace.
Right.
And he was able to scrounge together pieces to create basically robot legs. Okay? And over the Clone Wars, you basically found out that he had a brother named Savage Opress, who was also from Dathomir, and that Maul himself is a son of a Night Sister. Okay? So that is the whole crux. And that through the Night Sister magic, he was able to get robot legs again.
Magical
he
AF.
somehow was able to get involved with Mandalore and rule it for a time. And in the comic books, it's hinted that he did have an affiliation with Crimson Dawn,
Right.
which is the main criminal underground here. So it's not out of the realm that he would, at the time of Solo, be the leader of Crimson Dawn. Now, this does take place before Rebels. And Rebels... he's now back on what the hell? It wasn't. What was the planet in Rebels?
Oh, that
they found him on.
it was. Where did they find him? It was when they were looking for the temple, right?
Yes. So they were looking for a Sith temple, and they found him on the Sith temple planet. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably going to get.
I can like see. I can see the
I can
planet.
see it
I'm
too.
so mad.
Okay. But basically, that is the end of his arc. Okay, because he ends up. How far have you gotten in Rebels?
Don't spoil the final season for me.
Okay. So
So we'll leave it there.
we'll leave it there. But to make the point, he has existed in canon, just not on screen.
And I think it's been done in an interesting way.
Yes.
Okay. Guys, why do I have to read 300 comic books and 10 books and 5 video games and 3 different cartoons just to follow all of this?
Maybe it isn't for you.
It's not for you.
Maybe it's just a character where you're like, oh, that's weird. He was in that other movie. Maybe I'll look into that. And maybe it's for other people.
That is.
As I pointed out earlier, though, you almost have to make this movie as if like people going into it don't even know who Han Solo is. But you also then therefore have to go up the barometer and say, okay, maybe these movies are just for people that have only seen Star Wars movies. And last time in the movie world that we saw him, he got cut in half and he dumped his pants and he fell down a hole and went splat.
Listen, bro. I mean, I know that like you are a white dude and you think that everything is for you.
Whoa.
But there are times in the world where if you look at something and you're like, I don't get that meme. Or, that character being in there is a little weird. Maybe it's just not for you, babe.
I honestly felt that it was small enough that it was okay. It's a wink at people who've been following it.
Yeah, I liked
And if
it.
you didn't know it, now you can investigate. And this is what, let's be honest here, this is what Disney wants you to do.
It's true.
They want you to go out and buy the comic
all their
books
other crap, yeah.
and watch their TV shows,
Yeah.
so you can get caught up. That's what it is.
And this is where I don't mind because like
Neither do
Rebels
I.
was
I was fine
fantastic,
with
Clone
that.
Wars was fantastic. You know, like
Yeah.
I wish that like Disney was continually making content that
Yes.
good. That's what was disappointing because we have seen Star Wars stuff that takes in a different place, like you said, Brian, brand new characters where they reference the old characters. I mean, we've seen them do it well. I want them to continue to do it well. I don't want to feel like this. Like that movie sucked, and I didn't even want to see it in the first place because I knew it was going to suck.
yeah.
Well, and secondly here, and I feel like I'm on an island on my own here, but Darth Maul sucks. He is a one-dimensional, boring character with
If
cool
you-
face
you-
paint.
If you go
could-
by the prequels, yes.
You could make the same argument for Darth Vader
Bum, bum,
in A New
bum.
Hope.
Barf-
before
Vader.
what I'm saying is, and
Darth Vader.
you made this comment before. You've said that basically prior to Empire and prior to Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader was kind of a low rent villain.
Right? No, but I mean,
Agreed.
he was a space thug. He was an SS officer. Like,
But
he had a character.
But didn't it? But here's the thing: if you just watched the prequel movie, if you just saw that, you would have that. But now that this stuff does exist,
But it exists
in canon,
because people said, "Oh, he's so cool." Is he? He doesn't say anything.
but didn't they do the same
He
thing
just
with Vader?
flips
they
around.
said Vader was cool, and so they built the whole franchise off of him. So it's the same basic thing.
I'll fight you just on this. Darth Vader has a character. He has lines. He has motivation.
if you
So-
The character that I compared Darth Maul to is Boba Fett, who also is useless.
But that's your
looks
only
cool.
that's your only experience with him though, John. Like if you were to really like follow all of the entities
Right.
that Brian named, you would have a different opinion, I feel, because that character's been fleshed out. You just haven't been there to see
He
it.
has been fleshed out, and that's where I'm saying too. Is
I'm with you guys.
I understand that you haven't seen that stuff, and it's fine. I don't think you have to. I honestly, if you didn't want to watch all of Clone Wars to get the stuff, that's fine. You can find just those episodes, which I think it's only like I think maybe like what 6 or 7 episodes where he's in it.
Yeah, his arc, yeah. It's
But the
not
point
super
that I'm
long.
trying to get across is that if you take anything, like as I said, Darth Vader in The New Hope, if you just take him, if you didn't see Empire, if you didn't see Return, you would just say, "Oh yeah, the real villain was Tarkin." And Vader
Yeah,
was
it's
kind
true.
of, hey, he's kind of
His
in that.
lapdog.
He's kind of a lapdog. And if you didn't watch those other things, you would think that. If you suddenly watched another thing where Vader's in it, and you're just like, why'd you flesh that guy out?
Well,
Where did that happen?
And I don't mean to be confusing here. My point is that when we only had him in Phantom Menace, the fans decided that he was cool, and then he was elaborated on. I'm saying that this whole thing of him being cool and worth exploring again wasn't there in Phantom Menace, but for some reason they did. And I'm sure they fleshed him out and made him a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
I'm speaking purely of before any other media had come out about him, just Phantom Menace. It looks cool, but he's not a character. He doesn't do anything. And I'm sorry, I'm not overly impressed by George Lucas's double-ended lightsaber flippy shit.
I really like the flippy shit. No, I'm just kidding.
And like,
I don't like the flippy
I'm just
shit
kidding.
either.
And Boba Fett, I know they wrote some books on how he climbed out of George Lucas's divorce sex vagina. But
What's with you and vaginas?
it's a giant sex
That's-
vagina in the desert because George Lucas was going through a divorce and hated women.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, why do you think the
Sarlacc
Sarlacc
pit.
looks so much like a
Are
vagina?
you actually dead serious? Like, I did
Yeah,
not
he
know
was
this.
getting divorced from the woman that won the Academy Award for editing his first shitty film and actually making it
Oh
good.
my God.
Yeah, Marsha Lucas. He was getting divorced from her by the time the third movie
Oh,
rolled around.
That's why Temple of Doom is so dark. It came out the following year, and that's why there's abuse to children and women are idiots in it. But
Wow.
Yeah, brah.
But until they elaborated
Mind
on Boba Fett's character, he just had a cool costume. But people are like, oh, Boba Fett's so cool. No, he's not.
Oh no, I'll agree with you there. Boba Fett is, and I'll say that Maul is in the same category. Great marketing. They thought up of what would be an awesome character, and it stuck. So for me, first time I saw the trailer for Phantom Menace, I was like, holy shit, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the mistake
Two blades on a lightsaber? That's crazy.
right? And
I want that.
That's the mistake that, Lucas frequently makes, like strong visuals does not an interesting character make. The reason why we disagree
Okay,
with you, but the reason why we disagree with you, John, is just that we have more background on Darth Maul and like the decisions, as you say, to make him more interesting. I mean, those decisions have been around for a long damn time. I mean,
Right.
the Clone Wars, when did that show start? That was before Rebels.
That was right after Revenge of the Sith. So
Yeah, so
that
like-
must have been like 05.
So that decision they made was a decision they made long ago. You know what I mean? It's not like they just like dug him up now and they were like, oh, this is a great idea that we had. I mean, like, whether we like it or not, Darth Maul has been alive and been canon for over 10 years.
Yes. It's just he hasn't been in the movie verse. Which
Right.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
understandable.
Well, this is the same thing that happened with Avengers when Age of Ultron came out. Like, not only did you have to see every movie, but apparently you had to watch their 2 TV shows as well to know why they were attacking that base on, in that, like, Siberia or whatever at the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to watch your TV shows, too.
I
saw all your damn movies. I'm not watching
All your
the
damn
TV shows,
movies.
too.
You sound like such an old man.
Well, just these franchises. I mean, like when I was a kid, I read some of the books. I mean, Lane, you like read them all. I read a couple of books. I played the video games. I read a few comic books. But I mostly was just into the Star Wars movies. But now, as a goddamn adult, I don't have time to read every damn book and comic book and cartoon you put out, Disney.
To be fair, I don't think that particular shot was for you. It wasn't. It wasn't
Yeah,
for
and-
you.
and is it fair
it
to
was
say
for
that-
people like Lane and I? I mean, that was it. I mean, it was not for you.
For the me's, for better or worse, whether we deserve it or not, we're going to be really goddamn confused.
You're going
Yeah,
to be
but-
confused, but you're going to want to then go back and look at all that shit.
Oh, no, I don't care.
but being the majority doesn't necessarily mean that you're correct. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it can be different things to different people. And if that shot in the movie didn't mean anything to you, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of take it with what you can get. Like, but for me and Brian, like, I don't know. I thought it was awesome because I was like, that makes so much sense. Because I know a lot about the background and like Crimson Dawn. It worked. I thought it worked.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's enough fighting over Darth Maul.
Over spilt malls.
Yeah, over Spill
Yeah.
Malls.
Well, it was so funny, Brian, because like John and I were talking after the movie, and he was like, and he talked. Why did he talk? And I was like, oh, buddy, you're like far, far behind on the Darth Maul tip. I was like, he
And
totally
the
talks.
funny thing is they got the same actor
yeah,
who
I liked that
they got
a lot.
Ray Park, and then they had I think it was Sam Witwer or something.
yes, he's. I mean, obviously
And-
British, but
and he's the voice of Maul in the animated
yeah, I
series.
thought that was really, really cool
Both
because I
series.
could tell right away. I was like, oh, they got the guy.
Well, it's funny. I realized that, this same actor played Toad in the first X-Men
Yeah.
movie, and I was like, oh, you never got any better at acting. Did you?
Rude.
Wow.
Why are you such a hater?
He's a stunt man, who just went into acting.
It's just mean.
But I mean, nobody was good at
care
acting,
for
except
you.
maybe Woody and Vision.
Vision was good.
Woody and Vision?
Woody just didn't have anything.
It's fine. And like I said, I like Donald Glover. I thought he did justice to like a much beloved character.
So
Guys,
I think we've talked Solo to death.
well,
We've talked a lot of Solo.
we have to wrap it, I think, with the overall of this. Like, are the wheels coming off the Star Wars Disney train?
Well, these are never the good movies. You know what I mean? Like if it says a Star Wars story, like nope.
Here's where I'm coming from. Force Awakens comes out, very similar to New Hope, but nobody's really mad about it. We're just happy Star Wars is back. Movie makes $8 quadrillion. Fans are happy. Everyone's happy. Rogue One comes out. It does very well because this is the first like standalone movie. But then
Rogue One was fucking terrible.
But-
yeah,
yeah,
but
well,
a lot
hold on,
of people
hold on.
went and saw it.
yeah, but then people after the fact, like when it settled for a little, they're like, I don't know, that actually wasn't very good, and maybe it wasn't a necessary movie. But
Here's
it's
the funny
first
thing,
one.
John. I listened to our original review of Rouge One, and
Rouge One.
for most of us liked it when we first saw it.
Yeah.
It's only been later that we've realized.
Really? Did I like it? I thought I hated it.
Yep.
I feel like
listened
I've
to it.
always hated it.
Well, then The Last Jedi was extremely polarizing.
Yeah.
And now there's Solo. And I think people are starting to get hesitant. I think they're starting to get burnt out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we had these every like 3 years, and they were really meant something.
Yeah.
Now they're every goddamn year. This has only been like 6 or 7 months between Last Jedi and Solo. And
It's true.
the thing is, these movies, this came out and this is so dumb, in May, because instead of December, because they're afraid of Aquaman.
Is that what they're afraid
Is
of?
that the reason why?
Oh, and also they think the Mary Poppins remake is going to like blow up the movie. So yeah, they wanted that one for Christmas. Aren't movies magical? But yeah,
Whoa.
and the next year they're going to do May again for the last of the Skywalker second trilogy or third trilogy, whatever you want to call it. Second to Last Jedi or whatever the title will
Is
be.
that one coming out next year?
It'll come out in May because
Of next year?
Yeah, because of Avatar and Wonder Woman 2 are coming out in December. And they don't want to compete.
The final movie's not coming out that soon, is it?
Is it? Next
We're
May?
inside of
Are
a
you
year.
serious?
That can't be right,
Next
John.
May?
That can't be
No.
right.
Really?
We'll
Yep.
have to look it up. I mean,
May
I'm sure we're
2019.
wrong, but
Because Avatar 2 and Wonder Woman 2 are coming out in
because
December, and
that's
they
what
don't
we
want to
should be
compete.
doing. We should definitely be rushing these films for sure.
Yeah.
Remember when it took 3 years to make a Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah, remember.
And I don't know. I'm sick of Star Wars. Why couldn't it just ended at Jedi? And I mean, like, you could have had books and video games and all that good stuff. That's
Books are
fine.
amazing.
But you just don't need to make one of these movies every goddamn year until you literally suck the life out of it like a vampire. And then everybody's rich and but all the fans are just satisfied.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I think the problem is that we're starting to see the spillover of these bad standalone Star Wars movies go into the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and that's the thing. The problem, you know.
And the more and more I think about Last Jedi, I don't think it's a very good movie.
I liked Last Jedi.
I
think it's
still,
a bad
I still
movie.
liked Last Jedi. I find more problems with it, though. Like as I brought up the fuel issue, that part kind of didn't make any sense.
It's
to
weird
me.
that that's come up all of a sudden. I agree.
But I blame CinemaSins. They really blew it up on there. But then there are things like why does Holdo not tell anyone her
So stupid.
plan? Like that doesn't make any sense. You're now in charge. Leia's out
Yeah.
of commission.
And
Don't you
she
think
forces
you
a
would-
mutiny.
Don't you think you would tell people your plan? Like that sort of stuff. I get.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. And the casino planet shit. It's
Right?
pointless.
It's not a very good movie, is it?
No, I like what it does in terms of taking characters we're familiar with and making them fail, because we've always had a belief that our heroes are always right.
Yeah,
that
and
they
that's a good
always
point,
make
Brian. I like
good
that.
decisions. So while I'll say there are absolutely problems with Last Jedi, and you can listen to our whole Last Jedi episode and find that out.
And then you can buy our T-shirt.
We already did our whoring out for the
I'm
beginning of
sorry.
the episode.
and listen.
But I just think that it's refreshing to see them make the heroes fail, because we don't ever see that. But that's
that
not
almost-
to hide the bad parts.
That just seems like a hand-fisted way of them just trying to create Star Wars in their own vision and just kill the past. When what's his face? Adam Driver says, "Let the past die." That's Kathleen Kennedy saying that. That's
You're
her saying.
starting to sound like a butthurt fanboy.
No, I swear to God, I have my 3 films. I don't give a shit what they do. Like,
Yeah.
I have a podcast, so of course I'm going to gripe about it, but I don't really give a crap if they kill off all these characters and just start from the ground up. I really have no stakes in it, but that's exactly what that line meant. Let's get rid of Han. Let's get rid of Luke. Let's just start over and exactly how we want. It'd be like if they remade, or they did a soft reboot of Gremlins. They'd have Billy Peltzer in it, but then he'd die. And they'd have Gizmo would have a kid, and then Gizmo would die, so they could have a new Gizmo with a new design that they could completely control. It's
Wow.
Okay. Here's the one that I'll
geez.
tell you. Here's the one that I'll tell you. If you don't like that, and I would tell any Star Wars fan this too, don't buy the movie. Don't go see it.
Yeah.
well, I have a podcast to do.
No, but
Lucky us.
what I'm saying is the only reason that these movies continue to be made is because of money. That is it. That's
like
the deciding factor.
It's like the Minions and Transformers. If you stop
Exactly.
taking your kids to these, they'll stop making them.
It's the same thing with reality television. I've said this for years. If you hate reality TV, don't watch it.
Yeah,
Tell your friends to not
it.
watch it.
Just
Because
skip it.
as soon as they see the ratings are going down, they won't make it anymore. So if you don't like what Disney's doing, do not buy their merchandise. Do not go see their movies. And if you keep doing that and you get enough people to do that, then eventually they're going to say, it's not worth the money to invest in.
Meh.
So that is the solution there. Okay. I don't know Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know what her methodology or thinking is. I think deep down she just wants to make a movie that's going to bring in profits. Okay. And let's be honest here. The original people in Star Wars are older. So, yeah, they are going to try to make new stuff. And they are going to try to introduce new characters. And they are going to, quote-unquote, let the past die. But they're doing that because they need to think about the fact that, Mark Hamill's in his, late 50s?
Oh, we looked it up recently.
Yeah. I mean,
50, I think he's 56.
He's 56.
it looks all right, though.
Oh, yeah, he looks great. He's spry.
Salt and pepper.
He's very spry. Yeah. But what I'm trying to get across is you can't keep using the same people over and over again. And I think that's why they're saying let the past die. But my thinking about it is, do kind of what you've done with Rebels. Create brand new characters and have maybe cameos from Luke Skywalker or some shit like that. That's all you need to do. But instead, they're doing this kind of mixed bag of shit. And that's I think the problem is that the diehard fanboys who really very violently have been on Facebook and Twitter and shit like that saying death to Kathleen Kennedy. I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? It's just a fucking movie, for God's sake.
My favorite's when they call
opera. Yeah.
It's my favorite when they call her a feminazi.
Yeah, that stuff. But my problem is that Disney is trying to have their cake and eat it too. You cannot try to court the fanboys and then at the same time, say, oh yeah, here's some new shit and get out of here. It's not your party anymore.
Court them, but shoo them away at the same time.
You have to either do one or the other.
Because would it be a fair statement that there's no greater mob mentality of a franchise in Star Wars?
Absolutely.
People are
It's true.
so protective of
Oh
it.
my God. I'd say it's you get a little bit of that mob mentality with superhero movies and with horror movies in particular, certain types of genres, franchises like the Freddy people and the Jason people and the Halloween people. But I'd say with Star Wars, it's pretty much I'd say it's even worse than Star Trek people.
Yeah. Well, Star Trek
That's
people
fair.
have just been hurt so much.
they've been hurt.
But here's the thing with Star Trek people. They have been able to perfect the idea of creating new characters and new situations because of the fact that they're based as a TV series. And the TV series had to say, all right, you know what? These actors are getting older. We can't keep using them. So let's create new generation and have brand new people and brand new actors and brand new situations. And then let's do that. Oh, you know what? Those guys are done too. Let's create a new series and have brand new people. And so you're more or less more concerned about the universe as a whole instead of this particular character and that particular character and what this particular character is doing. So that's the problem, is that Star Wars is so ingrained with 3 core characters that we cannot escape out of it. And that's, I think, the problem Disney has.
Or two, I mean, the habits of fans have been solely from the movies and whatnot. I think if you do read the comics or you read the books in the 90s, I think it occurred to you oh, there's other awesome characters, and there's awesome characters that aren't canon. I always come back to Mara Jade and, it would be nice to see more female characters in the universe anyway, but man, she's a fucking badass. There's stuff in the universe that I would want to see, but you don't hear me screaming and, man babying about it.
You keep that to me. No.
Yeah.
But to answer, I'll start because it was about 3 minutes ago.
That's fine. I did my answer, so you go ahead.
With the wheels coming off, I think the next Star Wars, I call the Luke films.
Yeah.
I think it's
Skywalker
going to be
Enterprise.
fairly decent, and I think it's going to make a lot of money. And
Yeah,
people are
agreed.
they're going to think Star Wars is back. Then they're going to make the Boba Fett standalone, and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
And then they're going to start the next trilogy, and that's not going to be really received all that well. And then I really think at that point they're going to go into panic mode. So I give them 3 more movies before they go to panic mode. One of them will do very well, and then the next 2 are going to blow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next one in the trilogy is going to be fine. I just think, like, if any of the movies say a Star Wars story, like, just don't see it, because it's going to be fucking
bad.
terrible. Like,
It's
I
really
mean, Solo was terrible.
But listen to our review of it.
Rogue One was bad. Like, I mean, you know, it had so many problems. It was a story we didn't really need. You know, I mean, I think that's going to be continually like the issue. Like, do we need this story? And the answer is going to frequently be no.
Yeah.
So
Good talk, guys.
I know. It was like very
Great
cathartic.
talk.
Like when I saw the movie last night, I was like, I have so much to say.
Yeah. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, including your
Painting with Light.
Painting with Light,
Vagina Soaps.
Vagina Soaps with Dr. John Woolscroft.
Vulva soaps, you perverts.
Oh, excuse me.
Our Droid's Real.
And Our Droid's Real. with Dr. John Woolscroft. He's the double dueler, that guy.
They have souls, I guess.
So, John, Lane, where can they find us on the Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at LA_craft.
John?
Our Droid's Real.
Our Droid's Real.
Yeah, at Our Droid's Real.
You know,
at Vulva soaps.
You know you can change your Twitter handle.
Oh, you should change it this week.
Like I've seen other people that have gone and like changed.
Yeah, some people constantly
change their
change
Twitter handles. You can change it to
You
Our
should
Droid's
change it.
Real.
You should change it. Love it.
Somebody please debate me on the droids having souls. 'Cause I'd really like to talk about this.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do one quick thing, and I know this is interrupting. We're gonna start a weekly question. Okay, so here's the weekly question. I'm gonna post it on Twitter. I'm gonna post it on Facebook. Okay, do droids have souls?
Done.
Okay,
Love it.
there you go. That's it. That's the question for this week. Do droids have souls?
Love
Answer
it.
the
Apparently,
question.
do they have love holes?
Do they have?
Whoa, that's too much.
Let's
start with soul.
With souls.
We'll
Okay.
go from soul and work our way up to whole.
Yeah, so you can find me at Brian Coddington, also on the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or you do want to answer our question, do droids have souls? You can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and catch a new episode available every Sunday.
Disney shot first.